Okay, hello everyone. It's been a while since I've done a video, but I've had some requests to do some. So here we go. This is today, 3/29. We're looking at 30-year bonds, ZB, on my platform, 10-minute chart. As a side note, I've been kind of going back and forth on minute versus tick charts. I trade the ES, the E-mini, on tick charts, but I've kind of gone back to 10-minute chart on bonds, and I kind of like it better. But if I was going to do a tick chart on bonds, I'd be doing a 512 tick value. Anyway, we've had some really good signals this morning and today, and I've added some things, tweaked my charts. I was telling another person earlier, I've kind of tweaked my charts a little bit, and I'm really using this ADX indicator a lot, and I've kind of customized it so when it's going down it's red, but when it turns up it goes to a kind of a green or a yellow on my chart, and I try to align that with my signals. And if I'm shorting, I want, two blue arrows, and if I'm going long, I want two white arrows. But I also want my ADX not in the red but in the green. So we had a good signal right here this morning. Had two blue arrows. It had a little pullback, so you took a little heat. You notice the ADX went back red, and my rules say when I'm in, if I get in a trade and my ADX goes back red, I get out. But if you could have held into that, this thing went down almost to the pivot, but you got 7 or 8 ticks, depending on where you got in here. But as we'll see, this pivot comes into play here in a minute. So this thing went back in the green, and pretty much 8 tick profit there. Here's a good example of one that I wouldn't take. So I have two white arrows, so my EMA and my PPO have crossed, but my ADX is still sloping down or in the red, so I don't want to mess with that. But then we get our two blues, one for PPO, one for EMA, and then our ADX goes green, and this thing goes right down to our pivot, daily pivot level, 164.04. Kind of chops around on that. We go red here, so my rules say get out. But again, there was another nice little winner, roughly from 164.10 to 9 down to 4. If you could have held on right when this thing went back green, that's actually another trade that you could jump on. I got in right up in here because I was asleep. I actually didn't even get this trade, but I did get in here, and then this thing's off to the races. Now, what I've been working on is trying to hold while this ADX doesn't do anything stupid, and as long as this thing is green, I'm going to try to hold these trades, and it really will pay off for you. The tricky part for me are these pivot levels, but if I've got a good ADX value going, that's what I want. If anyone doesn't know, ADX, all it shows is the strength of a trend. So you can't really, when this thing is way up here and it turns red, that's technically not a trade. Now you could play a reversal on it, and I've had limited success on that. But you notice is how this thing chops around a little bit, and we're just slowly sloping down as it chops, and then once we get a little strength again, this thing will turn green. But it's much better to be down below these lines. Let me get my cursor out of the way. So I've got a line at 18. And I love to take these trades when I get two signals lined up, my EMA and PPO, and I'm below my little 18 line there, and this thing turns green. Those are, to me, the bread and butter trades. The sloping or red ADXs helps me stay out of signals, so I like that. This guy I kind of consider as a continuation trade. They're a little trickier, but if you look at this PPO, it's really, the histogram on it's really showing us some good stuff. ADX is turning green. We've been kind of going down all morning, and it turns into a big winner. So that's what I've been doing on ZB. Let me show you what I've also done on the daily charts. I play options longer term on the daily charts. And let's go back here at the end of 2015. I used this TTM squeeze. It's free and it's around on the internet, but it's basically Keltner channel and Bollinger Bands as they squeeze together, and then when they blow apart, this thing will what they call fire. So I like to use the EMAs 8 and 21. I get my crosses that I'm looking for. Now this one, both of them crossed at the same time, the EMA and the PPO. Plus I get a long signal out of the squeeze firing, and we can see what happened. Look what this thing did. You get in somewhere around this 154, 155 time frame, and look where it goes. This thing runs way up. So you go up until this thing changes a color, and you got a huge winner on your hands. I play TLT and TBT ETFs. Now you can just outright buy those ETFs, but I play options, and I like to go if I'm really aggressive, I'll go 30 days out, but I like to have a little more time. And right now I've got some 50-day call options. So we see we've got another squeeze here. I've got my crosses in place. I've got my squeeze kind of wanting to fire long. I've got things kind of pointing up. Had a nice pullback today, so I went long. I did some TLT long May 15th. 128 calls, I think, is what I put on. But I do this off the daily chart, and it's not guaranteed that this thing doesn't pull back some more, but I like my chances the way the squeeze and everything is kind of lining up. So we can go back and look at some other squeezes if you like too. Here's a short squeeze where we had two. Now I've changed the colors on my arrows, but we had our crosses. We got our squeeze firing. This one wasn't as deep, but still, let's say you got in at roughly 156.5. and you run that thing down to 151 or even 152, so you get 4 points out of the bonds. That would have been a TBT. When I short, I use TBT. Here's another example. We got the squeeze, we get our crosses, get a little pullback kind of right there at the average. So 155.5 up to just say 159. So another 4 points. This one just happened to be a huge move. Also, by the way, this you notice this corresponds with the E-mini and the indexes coming off. So if this thing does go long, and let's just say we even get right back up to this 168, you know, level. We're at what, 163, 5 points. That can turn into a huge profit on some options, call options. So, and TLT options aren't expensive, so you don't have to, you're not paying 8, 10, 12, 15 bucks. I think I got triggered in on these at $3 a contract, and not super cheap, but not just, crazy Google type options. Anyway, that's what I'm doing right now on a longer term swing trade on the 30-year, and what I did today. Where is it? Yeah, on the shorter term. Anyway, think about the ADX. You might be surprised how it can keep you out of a trade. For example, here's a good 2 signals long, but my ADX is still going down. So yeah, there's a little pop, but you're a lot better trader than me. If you could catch that and make any money out of it without getting stopped or shook out or something, I would much prefer these with getting in here or here or here. It all adds up. Anyway, good trading. That's what I got. And have a good evening. Thanks.